So we've decided this one's coming with us. That's up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to you here today. It's a beautiful morning, third week of May 2019. So you've asked us and we've considered what trees are here that we want to take with us onto the new property. So we've decided this is definitely one of them. This is our Honey Mandarin tree. Now we haven't talked about this particular variety before. We did get one fruit off of it last year. It tastes very, very good. So they're like the little cuties, but very, very good mandarin. The tree's been in the ground for about 2 years now. Nice part about mandarins, they grow pretty slowly. When we first had the idea of the placement of this tree, you'll notice these are our grapevines here. So what we did was we thought, well, as we're looking at this, it'd be kind of neat if there was something on each one of these corners. Well, as it turned out, they look fine. However, what we weren't really thinking about was the fact that they're going to start shading our grapevines, which is definitely something we do not want to happen. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to go ahead and move this, and we figured, hey, that's a good excuse for us to take it with us. So it's been in the ground a couple years. I'm looking at, first of all, how wide the roots probably are. So I'm gonna look at my drip line. So what you wanna do is you wanna take your branches that are to the furthest from the center of the trunk, these here, this one there, this one out here, down on the ground. So I look at those branches and think, okay, well, I've got roots out to here for sure. I probably have roots going out further than that, but your drip line is definitely root establishment. I know they're there. So I know I'm gonna be cutting off those roots because I'm going to get closer to the trunk. The second thing is the height, because ultimately what's going to happen is this tree is going to live in a pot. We've got a nice big pot, but it's going to live in a pot for at least the next 9 to 10 months, because we won't be planting trees on that property until sometime spring of next year, and citrus doesn't go in the ground until you've reached your final frost. So the reality is probably March or April of next year. This thing's going to be in a pot until then. So I want to make sure that the tree itself can survive in a smaller space. So I'm going to have to go through, cut the roots back. I'm going to have to take the tree itself, trim the tree down, so essentially it can survive in that pot. Because right now we've got roots going out much further than our pot. That's what's supporting this size of a tree, so I need to cut this back. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and prune this to make it a little bit smaller, easier to manage, and something that'll fit and grow well in a pot. Okay, so you can see the difference with how we have this pruned. Now, I don't normally like to prune my citrus trees this way. However, pruning during the summertime, we've talked about pruning citrus before. I'm gonna link that video here. And summertime is just fine. You can prune, not too heavy. This is heavier, again, than I normally would, but you can prune this time of year. It's in its full growth mode at this point. So, got that pruned back. Now, there's a lot of small fruit on here. So this tree is gonna try to produce fruit. However, I won't let it. So we'll take each one of these off as they get bigger once it's in the pot. So one of the things that we've never talked about here on the channel is planting depth on your trees. What you're looking for and what I'm going to maintain is, you can see we have the graft right here. So what we want to look at though is the root flare. So you can see you have your tree here, you have your graft or your root stock here, and then you see that the root stock is kind of flat, it's cylindrical, and then it starts to flare out right here. So what you want to do when you're planting your trees, you want to see this. You want to see that root flare starting to come out. That tells you you have the right planting depth. So you can see this tree was planted just about perfectly as far as planting depth, which is also what we're going to maintain once we get it into the pot. So I know my pot size is smaller than this ring, so I'm going to come through here and essentially be digging about that size. It is a nice big pot. You guys will see that here in a minute, but I'm going to be basically digging about there. So I'm going to be cutting off a whole lot of roots, which is why I still have my loppers and my pruners here. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get this dug, get the tree itself out with the tools that we have here, and I'm going to use this hand truck dolly to actually take it across the farm where it's going to be transplanted into a pot. So you saw me dig around. What I was doing, I actually was using a different shovel. So I've got this shovel here, kind of like a trenching shovel. So it's much longer, I can get further down, and I can find out where the roots are, at least the bigger roots, and then be able to get underneath the tree. So as we were going around the tree, I hit 2 spots where that shovel would not go in the ground. So you can see we have some big roots that are coming out here. We've already clipped them with the loppers. So we've already disconnected this one here, but you can see that is a good size root going into the garden area, finding water over there. We had another one over here, another good sized root that was right here. But you know what? The rest of those roots were small. I could hear them crackling and popping as I was going through, but they were much smaller. Once Lori clipped these, I started to see this move. As a lot of people talk about how they plant their trees and the amendments that they put into that hole and the importance of that, and I agree in the beginning. However, fruit trees don't have, generally speaking, deep roots. They have very wide roots. So you can see already this tree is going to move pretty easy. It doesn't have a big taproot that goes straight down like some of your shade trees do. You can see already what it did. It sent roots out from the tree to stabilize the tree, gain nutrients, which is what we're dealing with here. So now I think that's going to be about the right size to get into our pot. Next thing we need to do is get this up out of the ground. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, so the tree is now out. So you can see Lori actually came in behind me. There were a couple of roots that were going down, smaller roots. So as I pulled the tree up with the shovel, she came through with those loppers, lopped those off, and then we're able to get it up into this hand truck, which is just the quickest and easiest way to get it over here. And I'm not gonna talk too much because I want this tree back in the ground. Now what you don't see, I did bring some of the soil that this was in over here with me. It's gonna go into the pot along with the standard potting mix that we always use. You guys have seen that. It's that pink bag, Kellogg's organic stuff you get from Home Depot or Lowe's. So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing in the pot. That's it. We've got this thing potted up and ready to go. So you can see back to the same spot as far as where that root flare is. We've got it nice and deep in the pot because this thing's going to be sitting here for another month or so till we move on to the new property. Then it has to survive the trip over there. What I am going to do is I'm going to get a nice big thick layer of wood chip mulch into here to keep the moisture nice and steady. What we also are going to do that you won't see is vitamin B1. So we're going to actually hit this with vitamin B1. We want to get those little small roots going in this pot again. So this thing's ready to go. I think it's going to make it, hopefully, fingers crossed. So just want to thank you for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. Instagram and Facebook, we're on there and post things you won't see here on the YouTube channel. Questions or comments in the comment section down below. And make sure you check out our Amazon page. I'll leave a link down below. A free and easy way to support the work we're doing here. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere, so can you.